got somebody interested.
Yes.
How long is this going to be ready for? Next, one or two tax. Yeah, we'll get together, no problem. Be seeing you.
I had a subway back.
I might have a pencil.
Hello, Doc. How are you today?
Yes. 2 minutes early, not 2 minutes late. Yes. Nice. Okay, it's 5 p.m. We will call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is to say the prayer and pledge of allegiance. Mr. Whaley, will you lead us?
Father, we thank you for this opportunity to be together in this great country that's made it possible for us to be successful, the state that has stood up for what's right. And Father, just help us make decisions about this city that are for the benefit of all of its clients, its citizens, and its visitors. Bless these proceedings. Make us grateful for the blessings that you give us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 3 is approval of minutes from previous meeting. First order would be December the 21st, 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
I second.
Okay. And what we're going to do, instead of doing a roll call vote on everything, we're just going to, I'm going to ask you to say aye. If you're in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. On certain items, we will be calling for a roll call vote. December the 21st, 2021 public hearing. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Okay. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? January, and motion passed, January the 18th, 2022 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed. January the 26th, special call minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those in not
Opposed.
opposed? Sorry, it's been a long day. Yes. No one? Motion passed. Item number 4, approval of agenda or motion to amend the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second. Okay. Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passed. This time I'm going
And
to.
no motion for, and there is no motion to amend.
Okay, no motion to amend, correct. Number 5, we're going to open to discuss ordinances and resolutions. This is a called public hearing, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And item 5A is an ordinance to amend Article 3 of the Code for Division 7 Planning Commission. And I'm going to have our attorney, Chuck Connerly, to go over this ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. In 2018, the ordinance of the city code was amended to provide for the appointment of the planning commission by each council person had an appointment to the planning commission. Since then, however, there have been 3 appointments to the planning commission, all of which have been done by the affirmative vote, a motion and a second, and the affirmative vote of the city council. So the actual practice in appointing the planning commission has not been consistent with the 2018 amendment. And so I have prepared a resolution that changes the appointment of the planning commission to the manner that is consistent with more recent practice. And that is that the council will appoint the members of the planning commission. This calls for the reconstitution of the planning commission, so there will still be 5 members, but the 3 of the 5 will serve initial 4-year terms, 2 of the 5 will serve initial 2-year terms, and then thereafter they will serve 4-year terms so that the terms are staggered, if that makes sense.
Just like the city council is.
That's right. And it also kind of brings it in conformity with the city charter and other provisions in our code which call for affirmative action by the majority vote of the city council. There are a couple of other things that I noticed when I was looking through the ordinance. There was one place that said you had to be 21 years of age. There was another place that said you had to be 18 years of age. That's not uncommon, you know, as these things get amended over time. You know, sometimes those things fall through the cracks. But so I did make a couple of proposed changes just that were more housekeeping things. And so now the qualification is 21 years of age. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
My question is, does this represent a first reading that has to have a second reading at the subsequent meeting?
It does. And then assuming this is adopted at the March meeting, then also at that meeting you would appoint the planning commission. Reappoint members, but they would be for the term set forth in this ordinance.
This is just to get it like it should be, so they need to be reappointed.
That's right. It's
To get this the way it should be with the staggered terms and all that.
and to make it consistent
Yes.
with what recent practices are.
Do we have any questions for anyone, including the audience? Okay, so that would, at our next meeting, we will not have to vote on that issue right at this time. We will vote on that at the next meeting. So the second ordinance is an ordinance to amend Chapter 10, Business Regulations, and this is in reference to the short-term vacation rentals. And again, I'm going to have Mr. Connerly discuss that, please.
There's, as most people know, the Blue Ridge ordinances require or limit short-term vacation rentals to properties essentially zoned for commercial use. when the ordinance was adopted, there was a short grandfathering provision that said you could come in, if you were a property in a non-commercial area that was being used for short-term vacation rentals, you could come in and apply for a special use permit. But you had to do so within 30 days of the adoption of the ordinance. And so the proposal that I made is simply to eliminate the special use permit because you're not eligible for it anymore anyway because more than 30 days have passed since the adoption of that ordinance.
Do we have any questions?
Yes, I think it's public knowledge that there are a number of people inside the city limits who are living their homes as overnight rentals on public websites and have done so without a permit. Does this ordinance have any teeth in it anywhere that allows the mayor or the city council or, anybody to cease and desist the practice as of its adoption after it has had two readings?
So there are a couple of ways that you can enforce the ordinance.
The ordinance itself doesn't have a.
There is a general penalty provision in the code. So technically speaking, any violation of the code is subject to, fine and imprisonment.
And he has prepared a letter for us.
I just wanted that to be
Yeah. Yes.
heard by the audience, that
Yes.
there is a provision in the city council, in the city charter, and our ordinance, that violation of any ordinance is subject to enforcement by various, which you can elaborate on. This
It's
happens to be-
typically a maximum penalty, unless the ordinance otherwise provides. It's typically a maximum penalty of $1,000 or up to 6 months in jail.
And who will enforce that, Chuck?
Well, the city police can issue citations for violating the ordinance, and also codes enforcement can issue citations for violating the ordinance. The other thing we have, it's kind of like, a quiver with arrows in it. There are a couple of different arrows we have to enforce the ordinance. We can also go into court and seek an injunction if someone's violating the ordinance, get a court order directing them to not violate the ordinance. And if they continue to violate it, then they can be held in contempt of court. And sometimes that can be a more effective enforcement mechanism even than issuing citations. But
Okay, that's the legal way to do it. Is there a civil penalty?
well, there's not necessarily a civil penalty per se, unless it's provided for in the ordinance. Now, sometimes in your erosion and sedimentation control ordinances, or some of those related ordinances, you will have some civil penalties, but you pretty much enforce it the same way.
Okay.
And I can't remember, when it was created, y'all created it with, if there's nuisances to the neighbors, or even though it's in the city, like noise, too much noise or something like that, there's some, what's the, what do we call
So you
that?
would still, if people were getting complaints, we would send notification to that property owner that we are getting, and honestly, even with the noise, we have noise ordinances in town, so technically someone could call the authorities and say, hey, it's a non-emergency, no, we have this issue. But with this, we can send them,
Yeah.
this is a privilege for you to have this license, and if you're going to have violations, it could be removed, we could remove their, permit. Yeah.
So you don't go to the person that's actually making the noise? The police wouldn't go to that person, they would actually go?
I would think so. They can go there
Robbie?
if the police are called.
Do you want to address this at all?
I'm sorry, I was.
We're talking about the ordinance for nuisances with the short-term rentals.
So basically, let's say you get a call from someone and someone's late into the hours of the night
Noise
partying.
ordinance?
Noise ordinance. would
Yeah,
follow
like
that.
they're up campfire and all that, what they do on vacation. Yeah, we could address it under the noise ordinance. The only thing I would question about this is, of course, when we write an ordinance and it comes to our city judge,
Come up to
They
the
always-
podium, Robbie.
I'm sorry.
So we have it on record.
Oh,
Please.
no. Everything will be on record. What I would address here, and then we can discuss this later, is if we write an ordinance, and write it under a city ordinance, and they come to city court before a city judge, do they have the option to transfer it? And I'm sure they would, under Georgia law, to go to Superior Court. And then that being addressed, the Superior Court can enforce our ordinances. That's one instance there. They gotta be able, the jurisdiction of the Superior Court would have to be under our court also, because they have the right to transfer it under criminal. I think it might be better to go with like a civil issue on that side of it, if you was asking my opinion.
That's what I wanted your opinion. You're the
Yeah, so
interim chief.
you
What's your
better,
opinion?
you know, consider that. Once, if we write a citation in our city ordinances, and they transfer it to Superior Court, make sure that Superior Court has jurisdiction over our ordinance, so they gotta kind of coexist. That's definitely a big thing to do with that right there.
You didn't hear him mention the noise abatement and notification. Can you just give us a rough idea how many times in the last 3 months or so that the city police have called for a nuisance of any sort?
In the residential area, I can't recall as far as noise ordinance, the residential area at night addressing this particular issue, I can't recall one time.
And how about the CPD?
We've had a few complaints down with the, of course, with some of the music downtown, yes, sir.
You have made a visit and requested that they abate the music.
Yes, yes.
Have they responded and affirmatively abated the music?
Yes, every time we've had good response with the people we addressed it with, and there've been no citations issued.
And have there been any repeat offenders?
Yes, we have repeat complaints.
That's what I mean.
Yes, and we go down there and say it's too loud, and you turn it down.
What would be the most number of times you have visited any business in, say, the last half a year?
Any one business, Doc, you're
Any
asking?
one business.
Any one business?
Probably 4 to 5 times.
So they failed to respond in an
Well-
affirmative way and change their behavior, is all I'm trying to say.
They,
Behavior has not changed.
the music complaints that we get, that's been the biggest issue. And we've had numerous complaints, but when we go down and address it, they'll, you know, yeah, we've done this and we've done that. And then there's a few times that we had complaints and they've been unfounded. And I'm counting those complaints also.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie.
Okay, so, in relation to that, this will be our first reading, so we would have a second reading.
Can I ask one
Yes,
question about
please.
the commercial?
Yes, please.
There are a lot of properties here in town that are residential, current residential, that are zone C2.
Greg, you want to step up to the
Oh,
podium?
sorry.
And let me remind everyone, we are discussing short-term rentals, so that every topic needs to remain on topic as per our.
That's what I'm
Okay.
asking about.
Yes, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So there are a lot of
Could you
residences.
identify yourself for the record, please?
Oh, I'm Greg Arnold. I reside at 1167 East Main Street.
Thank
There are a lot of residences in town that are zoned commercial. So and have no commercial, actual commercial use. So my question is the rental the commercial use of the property? Does that make sense?
Does the rental constitute?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes. So there's not like a store and then a rental hub, is my question. So is that how that?
Well, in order to, even in a commercial district, in order to be a short-term rental, you have to get a license from the city in order to do that.
So that is the commercial use of property, is the.
Yes. Because they are collecting taxes and,
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
hotel motel, so
All right.
that would constitute the commercial side. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so we will move forward to 5C. We'll have our second reading on the short term in the next meeting. The next one is a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Blue Ridge to ratify and affirm the adoption Chapter 111, Stormwater Management of the Code of the City of Blue Ridge. And I'm again going to let Chuck go over this, and he did find this error, we can say, and we're actually correcting it, so.
One of the things I was asked to look at recently was a proposed stormwater management ordinance. And I went, as y'all know, we recently adopted, or cities recently adopted this code. And so I wanted to look at the code to determine what was already in the code as it relates to stormwater management. And as it turns out, the ordinance that I was asked to review is actually in the code as chapter 111 in the code. And so this body, having adopted this code, that is already part of the code. But to avoid any confusion, I prepared just a resolution that just affirms and ratifies that it's part of the code. Now, if asked the question, I would tell you that I don't think that it's necessary. I think that chapter 111 is already part of our code, having been included as the code when the mayor and council adopted it. But this was purely, because the issue had been presented to me to look at a proposed stormwater management ordinance so that, everybody would understand that there is in our code an existing stormwater management ordinance.
It says as a resolution, it does not need a second reading. And
It
I
does
can
not.
move adoption of the resolution.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second that
Bill,
motion.
did you have anything?
Bill, I think,
Yeah.
had some questions about it.
Okay,
Okay, as I read, there was a first reading, but there was no second reading, and you wanted us to ratify it.
so yeah, that's what he was just saying. So from what we have discovered, it was sent in by the previous administration to MuniCode. We adopted MuniCode, actually, our group did that first reading, second reading, so it has been adopted as our official code of ordinances. Therefore, we kind of, in essence, did have a second reading with this. So we had a second reading with our code of ordinances. So our attorney feels it is not necessary to go back and redo that. We're all satisfied with it. It's already in our ordinances as per our MuniCode. Does that make sense? Yeah, unfortunately, Kelly Crowder, we researched it. She sent it to MuniCode. She shouldn't have done that, but she did. It made its way to this. So what we're doing now is adopting a resolution that will correct her error.
So there's not going to be a second reading, or that it was a second reading.
Yeah, so the code was adopted. There was a first reading at the January 18th meeting, and then a second reading at the January 26th special call meeting, and then it was adopted. So everything that's in this book now is part of the official code of the city of Blue Ridge. And that includes the stormwater management ordinance. But just so everybody was clear, that's why I prepared the resolution. But my view as the city's attorney is that it's already part of the official code.
Yeah, that's why we're adopting the resolution.
But really,
Honestly, we wouldn't have to.
well, I know, but, really, we could just do a second reading.
There's already been a second reading.
There is, I thought you said there had.
When we adopted the code. We adopted the code.
You
Did
had
you
your
already
first and
email that
second
station?
reading, and it's already in there.
That's the reason I knew you
It
had
wasn't-
questions. I read the email you
It
sent.
wasn't,
Yeah.
So I want it clarified for you.
Yeah.
I get it.
So if you have another question, just,
Well, I just asked you.
yeah.
But I think his question was that, well, what happened in the second reading?
Yeah, and again,
By doing that, even though it wasn't the
Yeah.
proper procedure,
we've already adopted it through our MuniCode, so it's been
Right.
adopted regardless, through the first and second reading of
With
our
us?
official MuniCode, with our MuniCode, yes, so, with you. And, so it's in there, it's official, and you've adopted it. So. And unfortunately, that was just an error that was made by the previous administration that luckily Mr. Connerly caught, and we're correcting it.
So do you understand, Bill?
I understand it, but I don't
you-
agree with it. but
It's
I guess-
already in here and it's adopted as our official MuniCode.
okay, so what would you think should be done, just to have a second reading?
Well, since we don't know anything about it anyhow, this was all the other administration. This whole council knows nothing about this. So I would table it myself and find out more about it.
Well,
Well, there's no need to table it, it's already, it's.
I understand that, I understand, that's why I said, I
The
said,
ordinance actually is
Yeah.
boilerplate from the state's ordinance, and that, isn't that a pretty much boilerplate?
There are model ordinances that usually GMA prepares.
I think that one right there is a boilerplate. I'm not, I read it. It
Yeah.
sounded like boilerplate to me.
Mhm.
It looks like other stormwater management ordinances that I'm
Yes,
familiar
yeah.
with in other jurisdictions, and that's not uncommon. If
And we
you-
just don't need to be with that one.
Oh, no, and we've already adopted it, yeah, I mean, it's in here.
So I did move it for a second.
Okay.
second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on this one. Mr. Whaley? Yes. Angie Art?
Yes.
Jack? Christie? And Bill?
no.
Okay. So, did you get that, Amy? Okay, motion passed, the resolution. Okay, moving on to item number 6, consent agenda, and you guys have had time to look over all these. So I would like a motion to approve consent agenda items.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote on this one also. Dr. Whalen?
Yes.
Angie?
Yes.
Deb? Christie? And Bill?
Yes,
Okay, motion passes. Action item 7, this is simply a motion to authorize the mayor, city administrator, and city clerk to act as signatures for checks. We do have to get this approved through a motion to present to the bank. We need at least 3 individuals who can sign checks. Of course, Michael, our finance director, is not able to sign checks, for checks and balances per se through our accounting. So we'll have the 3 of us who are able to sign checks, which I think we've
Checks have
had.
a single signature and not 2.
Pardon?
Our checks have single
Yes.
signatures and not 2.
Yes, correct.
So any of the authorized people can make that
Yes,
signature.
yes,
And then they're all reviewed by you
yes.
and by finance.
So they're going through with a single signature?
Mhm. They are going through with the single signature.
Is that the way it's always been?
Yes.
And basically, you're taking the other,
Yeah, we will
the
take,
previous people
yes.
off and putting
yeah,
new people
we will
on.
remove
New signature
Donna,
clerks, okay.
yes,
Bank
yeah,
requires
yeah,
that.
yeah. And so the bank requires just it to be done through a motion. So do I have a motion to approve, authorize the mayor, city administrator, and city clerk to act as signatures for check signing
point of
or
information,
withdrawals? Mhm.
she just said there was 2 signatures on the checks.
Oh, there are, okay.
Yeah, there's 2.
Oh, good, okay, never
So
mind, there's
it's
2.
anyone in those 2.
Okay, one of those, but it has to be just one of those 2.
2 out of those 3.
Oh, 2 out of 3, okay, okay. So
Yeah,
2 out of
most
3.
corporations and businesses don't run that way, they always have 2
Yeah,
signatures.
I have not signed any yet, so since
Yeah.
I'm not on there, so I'm not sure. Okay, but,
Okay, I'll make the motion then to add the mayor, the city clerk, and the city administrator to the signatories for the bank
Okay.
for checks.
Okay. do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and let's do a roll call vote on this one also. Mr. Whalen? Angie?
Yes.
Yes.
Christie? And Bill?
Yes.
Okay. The next item is a discussion agenda item, which is downtown parking. And I think you all have a handout that kind of identifies some different areas. We've talked about parking for years. For years, we've done studies, we've had at least 5 or 6 town hall meetings. And, we've really, thanks to some individual, I think Mr. Kiefer, who's in the audience, he has a parking garage now, which we've identified as one of the parking spaces. Mr. Wojohn has provided 2 parking spaces for the city, which is very good. We have city parking at the end of Mountain Street, and we've identified several other spaces throughout the town. We have had volunteers. Mr. Bo Chansey has agreed to let the city use the parking lot across the street. And Rita, Kirby, and myself own the middle lot there, and we've also agreed to let them use it free of charge until the time it would sell. So we're willing to offer that as a service also, free of charge on all parties to the city, and they can charge if they want to, or they can do it free. So that's up to them. So we have a lot of good parking options. And this is just kind of a preliminary to discuss it and go over. I know Angie wanted to talk about a few things as well. We've identified areas where we think there should be limited parking. And I've identified on this handout, again, Mr. Kiefer's parking garage, Wojohn's that is down here on West Main, he actually has 2, and those would be good areas for private paid parking. The blue area is marked, that is our city paid parking, and all the orange spaces are areas where we would allow city workers to park free of charge. And we've identified spaces, like, again, the one across the street, we have 2 spaces back here in the back street on between us and the Senior Citizen Center. The back parking lot here at City Hall, the church parking lot at First Baptist. We've also identified some areas such as on Depot Street and Church Street, as well as Mountain Street on the side areas where they could park. And we also are looking at possibly Roberts Way as an area for just maybe, I know a few residents live down through there and they park, but also for people who are employed within the city. Also down at the city paid parking lot, there's an area that we would also allow one section to be for anybody who works within the city, you know, who works in the city limits, so that they can have parking, because you don't want to charge anyone who's coming to work to have to park. So we have identified numerous spaces for that. And limiting on East and West Main to either 2 to 3 hour, preferably 3 hour parking. And that allows people to come and go. And I think it would also allow, I've talked to Mike from the train, and I told them that we're possibly looking at doing that, and that they could really even maybe talk with Mr. Kiefer, Mr. Wojohn, on having some designated areas for the train. So I think that might help everybody involved with that. So, do we have any questions, comments?
Are there any restaurant owners here? Has anybody surveyed the restaurant owners to say that they can do a party in 3 hours? You know, a bridal party or a birthday party in 3 hours, or do they need 3 hours and 25 minutes and make it 4 hours?
Well,
I'm trying to accommodate the business people
Yeah.
that depend upon people parking their car, getting all these bridesmaids and everything in one of these restaurants, and then feeding them, and then
Now,
they get out of the car.
One thing we had talked about on that is making this set hours, so like you say, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then after 5 p.m., it's not really going to matter, they can park there as long as they want to, you know, till midnight,
If they
till,
go to eat lunch, they can get out.
yeah, and I think people with lunch, if you're running in to get a cupcake, if you just want to shop in, go in and buy something, Caesar's store, whatever, you're in and out, you know.
So we're suggesting 3 hour parking?
That's what we're suggesting.
Is that what
How are you
you're
gonna
talking about?
enforce it?
Excuse me?
How will it be enforced?
We're handling that through, with our police officers, we're actually having meetings, so. Yeah. But we will make sure it's enforced, and we will be creating ordinances. But, okay, but this is a discussion for just council.
Can I suggest that maybe we have like